Hello, hello, hello. Oh, hello everybody. My name's Susie Ellis and Sarah's asked me to talk on World Suicide Prevention Day 2015. I've been just looking at the figures. I can't really believe how many people die. It says over 800,000 people die from suicide, and that corresponds to one death every 40 seconds. I had no idea that's what happened. I'm a trained hypnotherapist, and one of the things in learning, we had to learn very carefully what we could help with and what we couldn't help with. And suicide was one of the things we definitely had to refer. But nobody came to see me because they were feeling suicidal. They came to see me for other reasons. Maybe their marriage wasn't very good, or their children were upsetting them, or they felt terribly depressed or miserable, or for some reason. And then we'd get into a session talking and listening to them, and then they'd say something like they didn't want to go on. So I had to be very careful so that you didn't upset what you were talking to people about. And I'm going to have to put my glasses on, otherwise I won't be able to read what people are saying. So I was just saying, for those people that are joining, hello, I'm a trained hypnotherapist, and one of the things we were told to refer, rather than even think about dealing with, was people who felt suicidal. And the fact that people don't always say that's how they're feeling to begin with, it comes out in conversation. And then you have to be very careful with people to help them go to the right places that can, who have the tools. I think there's been so much stigma about suicide. It seemed to be alright. I've made a few notes just in case. It seemed to be alright for Romeo and Juliet. That seemed to be okay. It seemed to be okay for that film back in the 60s with Omar Sharif and Catherine Deneuve, for the Crown Prince of Austria to commit suicide in a love pact. But somehow when it's close to home, it doesn't sit very easily with us. I live in Sussex, and Virginia Woolf lived and died along the river, just along here. She walked into the river with a pocket full of stones, and she'd been desperately ill beforehand and very depressed. So what's the difference between being depressed and not wanting to carry on and actually considering taking your own life? Personally, I don't know, because I haven't experienced it myself. I've never been that depressed that I would consider taking my own life. And like all of us, I've had periods of depression, but I haven't gone that far. My daughter's boyfriend committed suicide. Nobody at all knew that he was depressed. People knew he was fed up, kicking tires, being a bit angry, young man. Nobody knew that he would be that. And he made a phone call to one of our other friends and said, I'm ringing to say goodbye. But they didn't pick up the phone because it was the middle of the night, and he left a message. So we were all left, especially Julie, who picked up the phone, with this terrible feeling of guilt. Could we have done something? Could we could we? Young men are most at risk. Is that a fact? I didn't know that, thank you. I think there are a lot of hidden pressures now that we haven't, I might not have experienced. And so, Dave, we really miss him. And we had no idea that he was going to hang himself in the garage. Now, also in Sussex, I can see out of that window the cliffs that go over Seaford Head to Beachy Head. And that seems to be a very popular place for people to go and commit suicide. I have a friend who works for the Sussex Police, and on their intranet, they every day there is somebody walking along there. And we're really lucky to have some volunteers that walk across the cliffs every day and talk to people, and more often than not they're able to talk to them and stop them jumping. What a wonderful volunteer. I mean, those people are angels, I think, to do that every day. I did go and have a look on one of my dog walks, and people have planted little gardens and things. I wonder really whether mind-altering drugs have any relation to suicide. Philip Day, a friend of mine, has written a book called The Mind Game, and it's all about the type of drugs that are administered by the medics nowadays, and and the results of them. There's quite a lot of people in hospital also try and commit suicide. People in prisons commit suicide, and also there's been in 2012. I was looking at Reuters earlier on. In 2012, the US Navy SEALs and military, there were 350 men and women died in suicide. It was more than those lost in combat. So stress, I mean, that must be a terrible thing to fight for years and years and years. So stress. So sometimes people have a cry for help, and they harm themselves, self-harming, or they actually try and commit suicide and don't succeed. So, yeah, Jane, suicide is very real. And I think sometimes people are dismissed by, oh well, you know, they were just trying to commit suicide. And I think every instance has got to be taken very seriously, and we need to listen to those people. I find as a hypnotherapist that listening is the key to most help. Most people are not listened to properly. We can have conversations, but sometimes people are thinking about what they're going to say next, not what they're listening to. And I think giving people a space to talk. And then there's the people they leave behind. They need a space to talk to, because it's a very odd bereavement. It's a bereavement that has sort of stigmas to it. Until 1823, you couldn't be buried in consecrated ground. After 1823, you could be buried, but you weren't allowed to have a religious ceremony. I think it's a time that these stigmas stopped. Love pacts, people committing suicide, suicide bombers. These are all somebody's children and grandchildren, maybe a mother or a father. We have to be more compassionate and reach out to people. And instead of thinking, oh, I don't know what to say, maybe just hold their hand and say, if I can help, I'm willing to. So now my time's up, and I'm going to be handing over to Alicia. Alicia, are you there? Are you ready? Perhaps she can put a thing up. Oh, Jane says it's referred to as commit suicide. Until the 90s it was a criminal offence. It was actually, Alicia says she's going to set up also, so it seems so peculiar, doesn't it? I mean, we administered the death penalty to 1964, as in one human being killing another, and why can't you have the choice of whether or not you want to live? And then I suppose I could talk about euthanasia, but I've run out of time. Maybe we'll do that another time, because that is also a form of suicide. It's a choice about whether you live or die. I think it comes back to basic respect, love and caring for other human beings. And let's all try and listen. Thanks for listening to me. It's Alicia now.